To keep it brief, when I was 17, my family and I lived in a rural town in Australia. We moved into a relatively isolated neighborhood, but about 3 doors away lived a single old lady. When moving in, she seemed nice enough and introduced herself. Always seemed a bit nosy and asked a lot of questions, but I put it down as what old lonely people do. She seemed sweet, or so I thought. One day on school holidays, I was home alone and making a sandwich in the kitchen. I looked out the window over to her property, and through her bedroom window, thought I saw her figure in the distance, but it was hard to tell. For some creepy reason, I got my binoculars, looked over, focused them, and my heart sank into my chest, mouth dried, and legs shook with shock as I realized she was staring directly at me. After a few seconds, she made a massive grin on her face. I shut the blinds, told my parents, but they played it off, saying I must have not looked properly. But that's not the creepy part. The night before we were set to move, my father was in the Air Force. I finished playing around on my PC before going to bed. I awoke to rustling sounds outside. I got freaked out when I realized it wasn't merely creaking sounds in the house. With frozen courage, I peeked out the blinds ever so slightly, and bam! I make eye contact with the old lady directly out my window. My body froze, and she started quietly laughing, not moving her gaze at all. I shut the blinds, panicked, and shouted for my parents. The three of us searched outside, but nothing. My dad confronted her, and she acted like the phony sweet old lady with dementia again. Thank God we moved the next day. As we packed, something in the back of my mind told me she was watching me from afar. Still sends shivers down my spine. I still have paranoia, trouble sleeping at night, and bad dreams. I try to justify it as mental illness or dementia, but it still scares me even though I'm 22. I just imagine one day the same lady out my window even though I've moved across the country.